Happy Monday, all. Welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Broncos. Right now, it's Let's Talk Nuggets. How about that MVP conversation? Joe was on a tangent right before we went live. Maybe we'll pop into that discussion here shortly. Guys, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. And Brie, I want to carry it right into that. This whole day, or not just this whole day, this game has been hyped up for weeks. Weeks. Oh, Embiid and Jokic are going to play. You know, it looked like it was going Embiid for a while there, that MVP conversation, specifically between the last couple of weeks. And then he ducks it. He hasn't played the Nuggets in Denver, Jokic in Denver since 2019. Someone's got to explain it to me. It's ridiculous. I don't like it.
Does that mean if he hasn't played in Denver since 2019, does that actually mean he's ducking Jokic? Or does he just not like playing the Nuggets in Denver?
That's the same thing. Same thing. If you are always like, I just like don't like getting in fights with that guy I always talk shit to, that's just something I don't like doing. That's fine, but you are ducking him.
I know.
It's ridiculous. And Embiid's like, I might play him in Philadelphia this year. That's pretty much what it is every single year. He might not even play him at all. There's been plenty of seasons where we don't even see the matchup. And then
in the finals.
I'll see it in Philadelphia, never in Denver. It's crazy. The last time we saw it in Denver, buzzer beater, Jokic.
All right, that's fair. I get the conversation. We've been having the conversation all day. I've spoken to multiple people about how they feel about this circumstance, and we thought more appropriate on Mile High Sports talk a little bit of Nuggets before we jump into the big news of the day with the Denver Broncos, as we're going to be grading the free agency period. A lot of acquisitions. We're going to be covering the offense today. Zach, you didn't answer me, though. How are you?
I'm doing good. Like Joey, I'm disappointed we don't get this epic matchup now, but I'm glad to be back with y'all talking about some Broncos free agent moves. I feel like we've got so much to talk about. It's fun.
It is fun. I'm glad to do it with y'all. We're going to start off with Mike McGlinchey. We've had a little bit of mixed reviews here. I guess not mixed necessarily, but we've changed our direction with our grading a little bit here. We're going to give them A through F decisions. Obviously, a tackle signing 4-year deal for McGlinchey. Guys, start off. Let me know how you felt about this. Has it changed since it was announced? Why has it changed? How do you feel about the McGlinchey signing?
For me, go ahead, Zach. I was just about to type that you go. Go ahead, bro.
I'm so sorry, Joey. I've come down to earth on it quite a bit. I think when it first happened, I was like, hey, good signing. It's expensive, yes, but it gives you stability at right tackle for the foreseeable future, at least the next 3 years. And that's something nice. And I think that is nice. I think just the Broncos dramatically overpaid for that. I don't think the difference between Mike McGlinchey and like Andrew Wiley is that great. I think McGlinchey is a bit of a better player. I don't know if the ceiling is that high with him, especially post-injury. I think you've seen some of that tremendous athletic ability that made him a top 10 pick. I think you've seen it degrade a little. And I think it's very unlikely he lives up to that deal. Andrew Wiley's making $8 million a year AAV on a 3-year deal. Washington is not committed to him really at all long term. Weirdly, Washington, a team known for making like crazy, outlandish free agent signings, they were the shrewd team here. I would have much rather if what we just want is stability at right tackle, give me Andrew Wiley. If you want a high-end right tackle, I don't think Mike McGlinchey's that. I would have rather spent on like Jawan Taylor, who I think is more of a gamble maybe, but also I think has more like untapped upside. Now he was more expensive, but if you're already shopping in that aisle, go for it. If we're shopping in the stability aisle, let's go for Andrew Wiley, half the price.
Do we not see this as an operative upgrade over Cam Fleming?
For me, I don't. Okay, so it is an upgrade. It's like, I don't think it's a massive upgrade. If I'm going to be straight up honest with everybody, I think so. Here's my thing with McGlinchey, and I really went through and I studied a bunch of his tape. My big thing with him is that it's like so understandable why he was a first-round pick. It's obvious when you go out there and watch him. Big, tall. He really, really can move. He has every physical attribute where you'd be like, first-round tackle. He has the opportunity to be one of the best in the league at that right side. The issue is he still kind of looks like a first-round prospect. He doesn't look like a actual first-round NFL, a former first-round NFL player at tackle. That's kind of my issue with him. I would like to say, hey, the Broncos coaching staff, this new O-line coach that we just got, Streif, he can coach that potential out of him. My issue there is that San Francisco, he had a really good O-line coach. Even going back to Notre Dame has a fantastic O-line coach. He's gotten great coaching ever since college and through the NFL, and it just hasn't really grown into his full potential. So I'm going to give the grade a C-. I think it's an overpay. I do. But on the other side, I have to imagine that Sean Payton, the Broncos, like him more than I do. That's kind of why I'm just going to meet it in the middle. C- for me.
All right. Zach, what was your grade?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I guess I didn't give a grade. I think I'm right there with Joey, C-. Like, I think you went out there and you did it. And to me, I do think he's a notable upgrade on Cam Fleming. But Cam Fleming's going to make $3 million this year. And Mike McGlinchey's making $18 million, and the Broncos are tied to him for the next 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the issue.
I think there's a relative discourse of, and there's some in the chat. If you want to join the discussion, please jump on over to the YouTube or the Facebook stream so we can chat along with you. But the idea of the expense end of it, right? Well, we want the Broncos to spend money to plug some of those holes that were happening. And if the bookend of McGlinchey and Bowles on either side kind of helps repair some of those offensive line woes that the Broncos have been seeing, then I guess we'll see how we grade these signings after the fact. We'll, of course, do that at the end of the season when we can give it a fair shake. I'm going with a B-. I don't know any better other than to say what you've seen coming in, the relative upgrade, although maybe it's not that big. I think taking the contract into consideration when grading these can get a little bit sticky, but I'm sure that I'll come back down to the relative horizon once we see these players play and see how the 2023 Broncos season shakes out. So, Joey, you did a breakdown of McGlinchey and Powers, I believe, over on the Let's Talk Broncos YouTube. Is that correct? Is it up and ready for people to view?
Please, everybody, go watch it. It's been up for a few days now. I highly suggest everyone to go watch it. I have a new video coming out soon that I've been working on, or I don't know about soon. I'm going to spend my time on it, but it's coming. So yeah, I'm working on it.
All right. Well, I love it. And that leads us into our second grade of the evening in Ben Powers, a powerful signing. Guys, let me know how you feel about this. Zach, I'm going to throw it over to you. What is your grade for Ben Powers?
I like the a powerful signing. That was fun. Yeah, I think it's good. This has something I'm kind of concerned about with the Alex Singleton contract too. Don't shoot me, Bree. Which is, these are guys that if they were on the open market a year ago, and in Alex Singleton's case they would be making small fractions of what they made this year. Ben Powers on the open market last year, is probably making 3-4 mil maybe. And now he's, got a year that ties him to the Broncos for at least the next 2 years. Or more like one. They could get out of it after one if they wanted. But pays him like a top 10 guard in the league. And I do think that's a little concerning, but he was a really good guard last year. He gives the Broncos a much stronger front. I think it was a position they had to upgrade. I think Ben Powers embodies that upgrade. The fact that he's gotten better year over year kind of makes me, when he's gotten playing time, makes me feel a little more confident that it's not just a flash in the pan fluke. And I don't know. I also trust Zach Streif to coach these guys up. I think Sean Payton's done a good job identifying offensive line coaches in the past. Yeah, I like the Power signing. I would give it a solid B, though I do have a few concerns.
Yeah. I mean, I can understand where you're coming from, Zach. I think I'm a little higher on it than you are. You mentioned, so it is always a little concerning when it's the Broncos are like they are signing him for the player last year, not the year before that. But Ben Powers is So it is concerning because of that. But I think Singleton is a little more concerning just because I saw Evero kind of hide his deficiencies last year, which really amplified how good he was at that other stuff. To me, Ben Powers played in the same system he did the year before. He did the same things. He just was better at it. So that just tracks to me as an improvement, especially being in his age range. I think he's 26 last year. While he was playing a good portion of it, he was 25. He's still in that age range where he can improve. So I really, really like Ben Powers. He's probably my favorite signing of this entire class. I think the Broncos really needed to get better on that interior offensive line. I'm excited for the pairing of him and Quinn Miners for years to come, right? Years to come from both those guys. I would give this one an A. I really like it. I think they paid top money for a top guard. And it was a need, and the Broncos addressed it. So I'm going to give it an A.
I like how you said that, Joey. There was a need that was addressed. Obviously, Powers still in his prime at 26 years old. You're looking at Bowles, Powers, your center, which you have to assume at this point is going to be Lloyd Cushenberry, Quinn Miners, and then Mike McGlinchey. Does that upgraded offensive line, how would you grade the upgrade as a unit from 2022 to what 2023 looks like it'll start as?
I think they went from a D minus line to I don't know, a C plus line. I wonder how good Mike McGlinchey is. I think he might be more of a C minus right tackle. And, I think Ben Powers is maybe like a B plus guard. And I think that moves the needle, but I still think you have the hole at center with Lloyd Cushenberry. I was kind of disappointed with Sean Payton's answer there today. It is line season, so who knows if that ends up holding. Maybe they are the ones that finally unlock Lloyd Cushenberry and get us that version that looked so exciting at the Senior Bowl, however many years ago it was. But yeah, I'm a little concerned about that. I think, they're probably a C plus line now, but just removing some of those glaring weak points is going to help. We talk about it here on the show a good bit. It's a position group defined by its weak points, not defined by its superstars. And now left guard won't be a weak point, and right tackle should be less of a weak point.
Yeah. For me, I mean, I'm right there with you, Zach. I do. I also, though, have to consider, if I'm grading the line as a whole from last year to this year, I have to imagine that the Broncos left tackle play will be better with Garrett Bowles. I have to imagine Quinn Miners I've seen him better in a system that I think the Broncos are going to run this year than what they did last year. Especially because he lost weight to play a system the Broncos really didn't even run. So I have to imagine that Quinn Miners is going to be a better football player next year. I would probably give it a C plus as well, but maybe my grading scale is just a little more harsh than yours.
I like your scale, Joey. You are a man of the trenches. I'm going to trust both of you guys to give me an honest answer of how you see it. And again, we'll see how it shakes out at the end of the 2023 season. But what I'm hopeful for is the relative upgrades from the offensive line from last season will end up showing that the combinations and assignments along that line can have a huge glaring hole on the production that you see out there for Russell Wilson, for any of the offense, and for establishing the run, which we know under Sean Payton's offense is exactly what we're going to want to see an upgrade at. So I'm going to go that it's a relative upgrade. And I think, I don't know what that is, but a full letter grade at least, because anything is going to be better than the holes and the missed assignments that we saw last season, which was a big, major red flag. We've talked about it. It looks like Dalton Reisner will be moving on. Whoever steps into that position is going to need to be able to hold close to center and be able to make this happen. So Christopher Hart is in the chat saying Ben Powers signing is an A. He agrees with Joey Richards. I like that. If you guys have grades and you want to throw it in the chat, if you want to give reasoning, please do. We'd love to have the conversation along with you. Coop's in the chat saying, yikes, I don't like the sound of less of a weak point, and then has a laughing emoji. So Coop is right on there with Zach's conversation as we get to talking about all of those. Zach, you have anything to add to that?
Absolutely. Just one little point. I think talking about how this offensive line has upgraded, the biggest point in that might end up being Zach Strief. Joey hit that hammer on the head right when Sean Payton was hired that, hey, the most important staff hire here is going to be offensive line coach. And I think that's because when you look all over the league, the teams with good offensive lines are generally the ones with good offensive line coaches that can like coach it up and keep those guys cycling through at a high level. Like look at the Philadelphia Eagles, for example. Or what like the Browns have done in recent years with Callahan. running the show for them. What Mike Munchak did here, obviously, and in Pittsburgh for such a long time. Sean Payton's done a good job finding those guys in the past. If Zach Strief is just like a top 14 offensive line coach, like a little above average, that's going to be a tremendous upgrade. The stories I've heard about Butch Berry are unanimously horrid. Guys saying like he made him not like football anymore, like that kind of strong sentiment. If Zach Strief can just be like a good offensive line coach, I wonder if that is what causes this upgrade to maybe be more of a full letter grade, because maybe Lloyd Cushenberry surprisingly becomes, rather than a D center, he becomes a B center. He's finally unlocked, and Bowles is able to return like a good, or Quinn Miners takes that superstar leap we were hoping he'd maybe take this past season and becomes like an A-level guard in his own right. Now I think we're talking about the offensive line dramatically improving.
I like it. Don't hate the sound of that. We'll move on to another big signing and acquisition here. The Broncos needed help in the run game. Obviously, Javonte Williams is going to be out, so it's some time for that injury, or multiple injuries at this point, to multiple ligaments. I believe it's a 2-year, $7.5 million. I can't read the text. Is that there in the? Yes. Thank you so much. I was just guessing at that point. I was like, I think that looks correct. Can someone though do me a relative favor? Is it Samaje or is it Samaje?
Samaje.
Samaje. Thank you. See, I was trying to get all fancy with it. I was going French. Of course, we're going to go that. Drafted by Washington in 2017. He's an Oklahoma, or a British past 4 seasons in Cincinnati. I'm going to get distracted. Guys, I know that this is exactly what Broncos country wants to see. Again, another hole, another acquisition. How do you feel about the P-Run signing? What letter grade do you assign to this? And how do you think that, did it change? Were you initially really excited about that? Has it gone down a little bit, or has it fluctuated the other way?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sorry, Joey. I was finishing pulling up my data here on my phone. I think it's a good signing. I'm trying to see the guarantees on it. $3 million guaranteed. I think that's fine. The AAV on it. He is kind of one of the higher paid running backs in this vet cycle. I think that's just because some of the bigger ones haven't gone yet. He's sandwiched right between Jamal Williams, who I think is very similar. Stylistically, he's more of a celebrity, but I think they bring like similar things to the game. Sandwiched right between Jamal Williams and Alexander Madison. Jamal Williams got a longer term deal though, with a good bit more guarantees. I don't know. He's really in that like Alexander Madison market. Even like he actually has half as many guarantees. So in that regard, he's more in like the Jeff Wilson market, Jeff Wilson, Devin Singletary type of thing. So I think it's perfect. I think he fits exactly what the Broncos are looking for. He's Sean Payton loves his smart players. Samaje Perine, by all regards, is a very smart player, really good pass protector. I think fits that like physical road grading presence they're trying to build. Can impact the receiving game. Like it's a good utility signing at the running back position. He doesn't have a lot of tread on his tires. The Broncos had to make a signing at the running back position. So even if you want to like split hairs about spending money at running back, they kind of had no other choice but then to spend at least a little bit of money at running back. And I don't know, good player, good contract, good fit. A.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm right in line with Christopher Hart here. I think it's a B. That would be my grade. He's interesting. If the Broncos were looking for a third down back, Samaje Perine is terrific. He's carved out a role in the league as a terrific, really, really good blocker. That's where he's great. And then he also can catch the ball out of the backfield while being a serviceable runner. He's not going to blow your socks off as a runner, but he is a guy that can come in and play in a pinch, like Christopher Hart was saying. That's kind of his role. And I also would like to see the Broncos add to the room. So it raises the floor of the room like substantially, because there isn't a point where you hate Samaje Perine in the game. There isn't a point where you don't like him. But at the same time, he's not amazing. So a B, because it addresses a need. It's just not amazing. You know what I mean? It doesn't blow my socks off. So I'm giving the signing a B.
But I don't know if you're solving that need in free agency unless the Broncos really splurged on Miles Sanders. And would we be giving that signing an A? I don't think they're looking at solving the need or solving the problem with a single signing. I think this is a step in the right direction. And like looking at the market value, where he's getting in terms of guarantees right between Jeff Wilson and Raheem Mostert, who have a lot worse injury records than P. Ryan. And then in terms of like AAV, he's making like a little less than Jamal Williams, who I think is a similar player where you talk about kind of that maybe P. Ryan's a third down guy. Jamal Williams, I know he scored all those touchdowns this year, but he wasn't like a down to down back as much for the Lions. He was a short yardage guy, very good short yardage. He will get you what you block for him plus 1 yard, kind of like P. Ryan, but he's not a super dynamic runner. So I think slotting in right under him with a lot less like long-term guarantees or long-term being tied to it, I think it fills a need in the sense that like the Broncos just had to add depth to that room. It doesn't fully solve the need for depth, but it's a piece of it. And I think it's really good market value for that piece. And I don't think the Broncos have any like disillusions about or illusions of grandeur rather about Samaje Perine being like their workhorse back.
Yeah, and Zach, I totally agree with you. I on my scale, I can't give a player that I think is situational an A. That's it. I don't think it's an A signing because I don't think it'll have A impact, like A plus impact, I guess, letter grade impact.
Interesting.
So yeah.
Joey, can you, I guess, expand on that a little bit? If P. Ryan is coming in to both allow cushion and flexibility within the run game, as George Payton has allotted to, and then also with Sean Payton being relatively tight-lipped of whether or not they're going to continue to have Latavius Murray, I think that you're kind of looking for him to make that type of impact. Can you expand upon why you think maybe it'll be relatively low grade, or maybe I'm just misunderstanding where you're coming from with this running back situation?
Yeah, I mean, like he'll have an impact, Bree. Like he definitely will. He's not solving the issue. He's going to come in and play a role for the Broncos. He's not solving an issue, I guess. So he will have a role in the Broncos offense. I think, like I said, he's a tremendous pass catcher, pass blocker. He's really good in that role, and he's an okay runner. That's kind of the way I look at it. I want to add another runner to the room, and then I might grade the signing as a little higher. I just need to see more Broncos moves because this doesn't solve it yet for me.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. I'm going to fall in between y'all. So whatever the average of both your all's grades was, I'm going to go right in between because honestly, I think that if you're implying that you're adding depth to the position, especially as Joey allowed us to there in third down situations where you need someone to just power through, possibly get you closer to scoring touchdowns, which is what the Denver Broncos need to improve on the most. I think that it's kind of a home run hit though, although I am concerned with what other relative depth pieces the Broncos intend to acquire for the run game if they're going to run heavy this season. So it'll be interesting to see what they do there. Zach, did you have something additional?
No.
Okay.
I guess for me, my grading style just differs in, I think the signing individually, they are paying him to be just another guy in that room. I think they're paying him to be that third down back who can maybe, isn't going to disadvantage you if he's on the field in other situations. And I think they're paying a good market value for that. And for me, that's why it's an A, but though I fully agree with every point Joey made. I think just our grading styles differ there.
Relatively okay. Quarterback competitions are back in Mile High City. Obviously, Jarrett Stidham being signed. One of y'all said you were a little bit lower or a little bit higher, and now you've come down on the rating scale. Was that correct, Zach? Is that something that you said?
I said I was up on it, and then I went down on it, and then I went back up.
But you didn't go all the way down. So you've done this.
No,
you've even down.
Yeah, it's been some roller coasters. At first it seemed rich to me, but then looking back at the value and like comparing it to the other quarterbacks, like backup quarterbacks that signed in this cycle, I think it's totally fair. He's like making Marcus Mariota, who's the other one? Andy Dalton money. in terms of AAV. And I think that's totally fair. In terms of total guarantees, he's slotted right between, right between Taylor Heineke and Mike White. And the Taylor Heineke, some of that's the Taylor Heineke deal is a little crazy, but the guys he's making more than, even in terms of guarantees, because my issue with Jarrett Stidham is they have a good number of guarantees there, 5 million guaranteed total, 3 going into that next year. They're kind of signing up for 2 years of the Jarrett Stidham experience, and I'd like them to be a little more flexible. But even that concern, like the guys making less guaranteed than Stidham are like Mike White, Keenum, Mayfield, Darnold. I'm okay with that. Gardner Minshew is maybe one that's like a little bit of a bummer. But I think unlike Minshew, the Broncos believe that Stidham has actual starting upside. I actually kind of believe that Sean Payton quote today. There's no reason for him to say that. Really, that you could just say, hey, we love him as a backup. We think he's going to be great with Russ. And, if he has to start, we know he can do that. He did a great job for the Raiders this year. You don't have to talk about him being a future starter. You supposedly have your quarterback for the next 5 years, unless, you're looking to move on from Russ. So I think that element is interesting, as is the fact that, again, those guarantees, they want Stidham around next season, which speaks to me that if you cut Russell Wilson, you don't want to have that room to be completely vacant. I think they like the idea of Stidham carrying over. And again, in terms of AAV, you compare it to Andy Dalton. I think it makes sense why Sean Payton would target Jarrett Stidham, a guy from the New England Patriots scheme. Bill Belichick runs a very similar offense to what Bill Parcells, they were running under the Bill Parcells teams. Sean Payton, of course, is also off that Parcells tree. So there's some offensive similarities there with the McDaniel stuff and the Belichick stuff, which is where Stidham has been earlier in his career. I like it. I think he's a solid backup signing, especially compared to what was out there at the market. At first, I didn't like it because I thought it was a little expensive. And now I've kind of seen the dust settle and it looks like a good market value deal for a backup with some upside.
Okay. Okay, so this is another one we kind of disagree on, Zach. I'm not a big fan of Jarrett Stidham. From what I've watched, I'm not a big fan. And the only way I could give a backup quarterback a high grade is okay, let's imagine Russ goes down for a 3-game stretch. Do I think, relative to an average NFL team, do I think that this quarterback can go out and possibly pull out a win? And my answer is no. So I'm gonna say C-. I'm not a huge fan of it. I don't like Jarrett Stidham that much. It's fine. It's cool. The Broncos have a backup quarterback, but at the end of the day, that's just kind of how I feel. I'm not a huge fan.
Wayne King's over in the Facebook chat. Thank you, Joey. Not a fan. Wayne King's a fan of Joey's takes. What I think is a serviceable backup. Where my grading scale would be is who else would you throw in as a backup quarterback to Russell Wilson for the 2023 season and then grade it off of that. I think Jarrett Stidham is a good choice there. Peyton's comments this morning, he's still ascending. He was a priority for us. Obviously, as to Zach mentioned, there's a ceiling that they find is continuously climbing. He continues to improve. And that if Russell Wilson, as he was bound to do so last season with injury, miss a couple of games, you're going to want a quarterback like that to be able to step in. Maybe it's not as exciting as a Gardner Minshew or a Marcus Mariota, but I don't know if there's a whole ton of other backup quarterbacks where you would plug and play to the same type of system for a relatively cost-effective price. So I also think that that's imperative to note that you're not really getting that much more talent out of a lower price range. So I'm not mad at it. I think as a backup quarterback, it could have been worse. I don't know who would have been worse. So don't put me on the spot there.
Philip Walker making similar money. That's less exciting to me. Nick Mullins, Drew Lock, Kyle Allen, David Blau. Just looking at the money of it, it slots I'll just, in terms of AAV, you've got Jacoby Brissett at 8, I think he was the best option out there. It's why he's making the most. Also, probably why he signed a 1-year deal at a place where he's probably going to end up being the starter. There's a very good chance that winds up being the case. Then you've got Heineke signing for $14 million with $7 per year, 6.3 of that being guaranteed. That's kind of wild. Andy Dalton signing the exact same contract as Jarrett Stidham, except with $8 million guaranteed instead of $5 million guaranteed. 10 over 2. You have Mariota signing a 1-year $5 million deal. Nothing guaranteed on that one. Sam Darnold 1 year 4.5. Mike White 2 years 4. Drew Lock 1 year 4. Mike White 2 years 8, so 4 average. Drew Lock 1 year 4. Baker Mayfield 1 year 4. Gardner Minshew 3.5 over 1. Case Keenum 6.2 over 2. Like, to me, Stidham just fits in there. Like, I don't think he's great either, but I don't think he's that different from Mariota or someone that, I don't know. He's got tools, and I've heard. I was listening to the Athletics grading of just general NFL free agency move show, and the guest they had on talked about how the league opinion of Jarrett Stidham is a lot higher than the media's, which I think is a little interesting. I think dating back to like his junior year at Auburn when he was a heralded draft prospect.
Yeah, I think our just evaluations are different on Stidham. I think that's the main point of this. Like, I'm just not as high because some of those players you were naming, I just think that they are better than Stidham. And then I think it's just like a disagreement in evaluation. To me, my thing with backup quarterback, I either feel like it should be someone you feel comfortable to step in for your starting quarterback, and I don't feel that way with Stidham, or it should be someone you're developing behind your quarterback. Like, those are the two routes. The middle ground thing, I don't really love ever. So that's just kind of my thing. So Stidham, I think it's just an evaluation thing. I'm not the biggest fan.
In a perfect world, you would hope the Broncos would have draft capital to go after a quarterback in this class's draft. They don't. They probably won't. I don't know. We'll see. It's a long month ahead of April. As we move closer to the draft, you can catch what's on draft. You can catch Let's Talk Draft on Thursdays with Joey and Frankie as they go over all of the potential moves that could be made by the Denver Broncos and around the league. So, Joey, who are you guys going to be talking about on Thursday?
We're going back and forth right now. Maybe the people can help us out. We're thinking about just
vote in the chat.
Quarterbacks, maybe. Like, that would be really fun if we did that. We started a new segment. We're starting off with news at the beginning, just quick hitters, just running through it, and then we're getting into our segment, which is all draft related. So yeah, everyone, please tune in every single Thursday, Frankie and
I love it. Last one's going to be the signing of Chris Manhertz. Obviously, Zach's pretty sad about the departure of Andrew Beck, fullback tight end Andrew Beck. To come in, Chris Manhertz was signed to a 2-year deal worth $6 million, 30-year-old Manhertz addition to the tight end group. It's going to be one to watch. How do you guys feel about this signing? What was the grade when it happened? Has that changed? Zach, I'm throwing it over to you.
I like it. I mean, this is one where I feel Joey's thing about the impact thing. Like, what kind of grade do I give the Chris Manhertz signing? He's just kind of a blocking tight end. I do like that I don't know, because signing someone that's not just like last year it bothered me how it felt like every Broncos tight end just did one thing. It was like, here is the guy who blocks. Here is the guy who's a fullback. Here is the guy who catches passes. Here's the guy we don't play at all. And it was just very frustrating to me. And now I like that, this guy's a blocking tight end, but he also has demonstrated his ability as a receiver, I think, with the Jaguars. Not that he's like a very dynamic receiver, but like Eric Tomlinson had 2 catches over the prior 4 seasons before he signed with the Broncos. Like, Manhertz is more well-rounded than that. And that makes me happy. Looking at the contract value, it's, good. I think he's making a little more than Robert Tonyan and Austin Hooper, which is a little surprising to me. But like Josh Oliver was also signed as like a blocking tight end, and Josh Oliver's making 3 times more and has a lot more guarantees. So, it could be a little cheaper, but it also could be a lot more expensive. I'm okay with it. I'd give it a B.
Yeah, I mean, the Broncos went out there and they signed an inline tight end, and I think one of the better blocking inline tight ends that you could have gone out there and signed. I mean, I right before they signed him, I went out there and I was like, dude, sign Mercedes Lewis on a 1-year deal. I just want a tank out there. I want a guy like that. And then they went out and signed Manhurts, which kind of felt who filled a similar need. I think he's a better blocker than Tomlinson. In my opinion, I like Manhurts more than Tomlinson. Manhurts isn't going to offer much as a receiver. I think he had 7 receptions last year, but yeah, he brings what I'm looking for. So I'm a fan. I like it. I'm going to give it a C+ just because of impact. I don't think he's going to bring a ton of impact, but he will get a lot of playing time. He will. He'll be the Broncos' inline tight end. When they want another tight end on the field, I think it'll be Manhurts.
All right. I don't hate it. If you add more tight ends to the field, you're not upsetting me. We do, however, need to hop on over to a signing. Coop, thank you for chiming in. We were waiting for the peanut gallery to let us know that we needed to talk about Marquez Callaway. Obviously, the rumors still swirling, although there's been a definitive we're not trading Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy. The signing of Marquez Callaway, does that how does it make you guys feel? What is the initial grade here? Do you find this is a relative addition, or is this a replacement in the wide receiver group?
I don't think it's a necessary replacement. I think, ever since that like 2016 Falcons team, I think the expectations in the NFL have shifted a little bit. It's not about having like one really good receiver. Like I think kind of in the Demaryius Thomas days, the Broncos, just kind of had that like one good receiver. I know they had like Emmanuel Sanders and everything, but there was, one or having that duo or something. And now I think you want like 4, 5, 6 pass catching weapons that can be deployed in different ways in different moments. Like Chris Manhurts, for example, impacts the receiving game, not a ton, but a little. And you can use him around the goal line as like a decoy blocker who then goes out and catches a pass or whatever. Just, I think adding those bodies where the Broncos kind of didn't have them is helpful. And I think Marquez Callaway does that. I think he has the upside to maybe, be more than that. Maybe one day develop into a starter, though I don't think he's there now. What he does do is he gives the Broncos like a much better number 5 receiver or a much better number 4 receiver. So it's not like, oh my God, we lost 2 receivers. Kendall Hinton, please God save us. Like now they're a little more secure.
Yeah, I love this one. I really do love this one because it's high risk, or it's low risk, high reward. It's low risk, high reward the whole way. On the deal that you're getting him at, it's not a big deal. Like, where's the risk in it? Like, the Broncos, and this is the guy that just 2 years ago had a really big year. He's a good player when he was healthy and playing with a competent, passing game and stuff like that. Callaway's a good player when he's out there. And yeah, I just really like it because I really don't see a huge downside to it. I only really see the upside. If he doesn't work out, he doesn't work out, but he also has the potential to not just be, he has the potential, it might be more of a long shot, but he has the potential to be a big part of the offense, I think. If everything works out in his way, it could happen. And that's something that I can't say for everybody on this list. So I really like this one. It's good. Especially Christopher Hart says it, the familiarity with Peyton. That's another factor. I like it. I have no issues with the signing whatsoever, especially with how beat up the receivers have been in the past.
I think that there's a perplexing situation in Denver about the wide receiver group. Obviously, Tim Patrick returning from injury after that ACL tear, KJ Hamler injuring himself with that torn pec, question marks surrounding whether or not Cortland Sutton will make a resurgence, whether Jerry Jeudy can keep the momentum from last season going, becoming somewhat of a, I think, Christopher Hart put it down here as a camp body. I'm going to give it A- B+ because the idea of whether or not you added integral depth to the wide receiver, Russell Wilson's target group, and then of all different sorts of skill sets and types and body types. Obviously, we're going to see a lot of wide receivers in camp through training camp. Whoever makes the cut at this point, I think the Marquez Callaway signing obviously just adds the depth that we've all been asking for, but it does make me feel uncertain. The way that we entered 2022 in the postseason right after the draft was a much different feeling than what I feel about this current iteration of this unit. Just because I'm kind of confused with the identity of Sean Payton's offense, I guess. And I think that it establishes what you're looking for out of the wide receivers and as targets for Russell Wilson. Where does that leave the wide receivers? And will it actually fall on them this year? Because I don't think it's going to be the same type of feeling that I was feeling last cycle or last season. So that will do it for offensive grades here for the Let's Talk Broncos crew. We will be back to do the defensive side of the ball. But guys, in the meantime, any final parting words for the Let's Talk Broncos community, and where can they find your stuff?
Yeah, everyone, you can follow me at JR Drafts on Twitter. Everybody, please follow me at JR Drafts. And then make sure you're checking out my writing, or not my writing. Make sure you're checking out my videos on the Let's Talk Broncos YouTube. Please do that. Zach, where can they find your work, man?
It's so good.
I'm so sorry, Joey. My big thing is please go over to Let's Talk Broncos YouTube. Got a lot of work coming out over there. You can always find the show over there. It's the most guaranteed spot you can find the show, either on your podcast platform of choice or the Let's Talk Broncos YouTube. So please go over there. Joey's got some exciting, unique video content coming out. So go to YouTube, search Let's Talk Broncos. It's 3 very easy to spell words. It's right there, glowing in neon on the screen if you need help. And go find it. Go subscribe. That would be great. The other one would be Mile High Sports. Click on the bus tab. That's where all my writing is. I've got some really cool bus stuff coming out right now, talking about the women's team that looks awesome, summing up the men's team and how kind of they collapsed and what their future looks like now after all those transfers. That'll be coming out soon. And just now, right before we went live here, I had my piece on all the takeaways from the first week of CU spring practice. It's like 2,000 words, super comprehensive. I don't think there's anything else quite like it out there on the internet. So if you want to know how the Deion Sanders experience is going, go over there.
The Deion Sanders experience feels like it needs a laser show. I'm just letting you guys know. I think that's appropriate. Christopher Hart says, great show, fam. We appreciate Christopher. Happy Monday to you as well. Coop has a message for Joey. Tell Joey I signed DJ Chark in Madden just for him. He's killing it.
Good man. That was a great signing. And no wonder he's killing it.
That's ridiculous. All right. Go follow me over on Twitter, BreeMaces303. Catch all my work over there. Won't bore you with the details. We'll see you next time. Good night, Broncos country.